India is not a text-heavy market. We still prefer voice notes on WhatsApp over typing.
Any technology, I think, should reduce the gap between the haves and the have-nots, whether it is banking, whether it is healthcare. And if AI can be a driver towards that, I think that's the true success of the technology.
Innovation in these large companies sometimes gets buried in slides, power presentation. But you have actually shipped it.
AI is overhyped and underutilized. Absolutely lack of empathy for the end user thing. You can make the technology work for 95-99% of the problems out there. We will only be restricted by our own imagination. So if you can imagine, if you can dare to dream, it can be produced.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. I'm your host Kuldeep Singh. Today we are excited to have Mathangi with us. Mathangi is the co-founder and CEO of Uverse. Mathangi, before we start our conversation, could you share brief about yourself?
Hi, Kuldeep. Thanks for having me. I'm Mathangi, co-founder of Yuverse. Been in the industry for around 20, 21 years now, all along in AI, data science, building solutions which have massive impacts across, and that's what we're doing in Uverse as well. Uverse is a last mile AI company where we try to bring in outcomes through AI for enterprises at scale.
No, definitely, and I think you are in top 50, the data scientist in India, and I think you started your journey with the data science when the data scientist was not even a term which most of the companies were using.
Data science, contrary to what we think, has been for a long, long time out there. In fact, the origins of using data for decision making, you can even trace it in with Kautilya in Arthashastra, where he says that you just cannot use only raw data. You have to make sense out of it. You have to have statistical meaning out of it. How you could actually use statistics for governance. So it starts from there. Of course, modern day statistics and data science is also 150 years old. When banks started using scores for credit decisioning, etc., that's when it started. Then it had its growth in healthcare, where for clinical trials, for statistical tests and analysis, people used statistical testing. Then that morphed into some form of classification or regression problem, and then we know where we are. In fact, interestingly, the first AI bots, as we call them, is in the 1950s with a bot called as ELISA, and that
Mhm.
was done for psychology, and bot acted as a psychologist and the patient. So it's a very long field. The enterprise adoption, you are right, has been towards the end of 2010s, and then last decade is where it has seen the peak of the adoption. Of course, the last 3-4 years with the LLMs coming in, and it's become a boardroom topic.
No, you are right. And I think any innovation, takes time and it is about the adoption. And I think in the last 3 to 4 years, due to the technology have reached in the hands of normal users, has started seeing, hey, it is very powerful. And I think it has become economical, at least, what we see at this moment. The real cost will still to be determined, but nowadays people are realizing, yes, this is a new technology which can help ourselves as in the personal capacity as well as our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think any technology, I think, should reduce the gap between the haves and the have-nots. How much more we democratize the access to various, facilities, whether it is banking, whether it is healthcare. And if AI can be a driver towards that, I think that's the true success of the technology, and we are going in that direction.
Mhm. All right. So let me take you back in your journey. So you have over 100 patents and have led data at PhonePe, Gojek. Usually, innovation in these large companies sometimes gets buried in slides, power presentation, but you have actually shipped it. How do you distinguish a cool research idea from a patentable, business solution?
Interestingly, there is a difference between publishing a research paper and doing a patent. In a research paper, you are, researching whatever has been done so far, and then you're standing on the shoulders of the giants. You are making an incremental impact over that through your research work, which is, of course, becomes public, and then people can use your research. Patent goes in the other direction. It gets protected first. So you take ideas which are to be protected in the interest of the enterprise or the individual who wants to protect it. Patent is also about usefulness of the idea. It can be a very simple idea, but as long as it's unique, then it gets unique and worth it to be protected. Then it gets patentable. So when we think about innovation largely that way in an application oriented enterprises, we think largely on the lines of patent. And we protect, see, not there are multiple ideas in a company. When you're really out there to solve problems, there are ideas coming in literally in every conference and every meeting. You pick those to protect, which will give you the long term moat.
Mhm. No, you are right, and I think you are very well versed because you have seen all of these, right? Hey, you have also looked it into those ideas, then from the research paper, and also from the patent. But the biggest thing is always that you take these ideas and build it, which is either in the hands of your users, then they try it out. That's like a very good feeling going from ideation to the production stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So we build things for using, and we build things to make a difference. Um, I said I have a 20 plus years of experience in data science and AI. My focus has always been not to leverage the coolest of the models and build the the next wow thing, but actually to get the wow because it solved some problem. So I have been a person who has been out there to solve a needle movement, out there to solve an impact for an enterprise and through the enterprise to a large set of customers. So those have been my areas of interest, and those have been the problems that I picked up. So wherever I've gone, the transformation has been from not knowing how to use data science to getting it into a meaningful charter that makes a difference to the company.
Absolutely. And I think this also reflect in your professional journey. And I will ask about your recent transition from being a CDO at UB to CEO of your own venture, Uverse. See, even today, many tech leaders fear leaving, the safety of a C-suite role. What was, that specific gap in the Indian AI market that made you say, hey, I have to build this myself?
So Uverse is a subsidiary of UB. It's a fully owned subsidiary. The idea started in my CDO role, where we were talking to a lot of clients and our customers, and they found value in the solutions to consume them directly, not only through the UB network and the UB platform. So that's the genesis of Uverse. And the gap it specifically addresses is very interesting because we do have state of the art models out there, and different types of models and multiple such models keep coming every day. In fact, someone powerfully said that even if one more improvement of LLMs are not coming and LLMs get stagnated to where they are, the potential that we can tap from them as in the state that they are today is immense, right? So how do you harness the power of the LLMs, the AI, the space that is evolving in data science to actually make a difference is what I felt as the white space. And hence we started operating with it because the because of the UB network, we started this with banks, but now we are moving to insurance, we are moving to retail, real estate, etc. So our problem statement is simple: anything in AI that an enterprise has, we are there to solve it.
Oh, that's very powerful statement. And one another powerful statement which you have mentioned is that India is not a text-heavy market, we still prefer, voice notes on WhatsApp over typing. Could you describe more how are your products like Uvoice solving, the language exclusion problem for the millions of Indians who don't interact with tech in English still?
Absolutely, that text in local languages, in native languages, are very, very important. And if you look at the way the apps are built, if you look at a website, for example, is built, as Indian as we claim, the models in it, the pictures, the videos in it are having a desi flavor to it, but the entire actual interaction experience itself, which matters so much more, it is not built out of India, right? All of these had roots in the West, and then people morph it and keep almost the journey very similar. And but I think the difference is going to come in through voice. In voice interaction, and it actually happens right every time we experience that. If you ask ChatGPT or any of those tools to generate a conversation, it will generate a conversation as if two people in the West are speaking that conversation. The same conversation in India, even in English, differs pretty high. So, for example, the bots here cannot talk longer sentences. If you talk longer sentences, people interrupt. If you load your words with delinquency, for example, rather than saying "आपका payment due है" to there is a delinquency on your card, those are things. There are nuances on how same English is spoken here, the structure of this getting spoken, the number of words per sentences, how terse and how crisp are your answers matters when you are managing conversations in India. And hence, there are extreme nuances that to the way we speak, extreme nuances to the way one speaks, especially over a telephone, over a mobile phone. To when someone comes home, you speak very differently, right? So the nuances of these, the cultural aspects of how these things work is very, very important for us to take voice as a medium, voice as a conversation, voice to enable enterprise commerce across the length and breadth of India. One of the key things that we need to understand is how do you play these voice conversations to people who are not grown up seeing Western technology, but who are very native and speak in their language, speak in the way that they speak their language. That becomes very important, and this is far more than how many languages we support in Uvoice and how much of you accents we support in Uvoice, to how actually a conversation is designed, how does it how it gets spoken. I think that makes the crux of the difference.
No, you are absolutely correct, and I think with these interfaces, we started like becoming more kind of machine, right? Hey, how the machine used to interact with like with typing and all, but as you know, in India specifically, the people were not even educated at that moment, and voice is one of the interface through which we usually also communicate. But also, tell me, with the enterprises, yes, of course, utilizing those voice and converting them, what is the ask is also how they are handling the unstructured data. For example, even if I just take the a case of a banking or a lending company, they sometimes get these ration card, property paper, handwritten KYC, and you have launched UXs to handle this. How do you combine the OCR with LLMs to ensure a zero error rate in high stakes sector like this?
See, again, we don't go by very templated documents. So, one of the things when we talk to many enterprises on document processing is that, hey, what are the documents we support? We don't answer that question. We support all the documents, all types and forms. Extraction is just one part of the problem. We solve that largely through LLMs, and the existing OCR technologies itself is state of the art at this point in time. Where we bring in, and that's where the last mile for us constantly comes up, right? The last mile here comes up is to understand an entire business process end to end, transform that journey, and not look at it like a OCR journey or a bot journey, etc., but look at that enterprise journey of, let's say, somebody's taking a credit card, or let's say somebody's taking a home loan. A bunch of documents are required, and then somebody in branch is collecting those documents, then someone in the center is verifying, the central hub is verifying whether these documents are correct. If it is not correct, it again goes back to the branch, and then someone is calling a customer and then taking whatever is missing, going back. So there's so many people involved in it and so many process involved in it. So we actually do an AI transformation. We understand who are the actors, what are the process, what are the collaterals that they are collecting, what do they collect for, what kind of loan eligibility that you do, for example, if it is a loan transformation process. And then we bring in AI in this to either read these different documents, validate, match, and then figure out the eligibility, get in the financials in it, have an understanding of how the financials are read, and hence the eligibility is computed as per a bank's policy, and then say, okay, this is a go or no go. Give a human in the loop layer so that somebody can agree, disagree with the decision making, etc. Now we have also added a communication angle to it. So the whole journey can be very agentic. So from the time somebody uploads a document till the case gets cleared, the bot can completely handle it. So one on triangulation, verification, validation, as well as extraction from these documents, figure out a report for this person. Whatever is missing, the AI calls the customer, collects, nudges them constantly, nudges also the RM so that they can also nudge the customer back, and then becomes the entire single orchestrating point to collect all of these, to make sense out of it, to create a report. So that's what we are building in the document processing space. Again, this is India first, and hence we do understand the nuances of handwritten documents. So some of the land records, patta documents, ration cards, they come in different forms and different shapes. Not only do they come in different forms and different shape, not only are they handwritten, not only are they in local languages, but they are smudged, they are crushed, they have all sorts of marks on those documents. So we specialize in taking care of them.
No, I think that's a very good way to looking at it, right? Of course, the problem is something you need to solve it with the technology, but you are solving it for a end user. And if you don't have like an entire business process laid out, or not even like the empathy, hey, how you are going to solve it end to end, this is still going to be the problem for the technology itself.
Absolutely. So you mentioned it right. What last mile represents is the final empathy, that the empathy that we have for the last layer, the empathy in the problem solving, understanding what a customer wants, understanding what our client's client requirement is, the end consumer, what are the nuances of that, and then crafting these solutions through that, and not being bounded by, okay, this is something we can do and this part you take care and we cannot take care, etc. But having an integrated AI solution is what we offer, so that the final needle movement and the outcomes happen.
Now, I think that's the difference between a pilot to a production system. I think you are looking at this into end to end. And as usual, right, most of those AI projects get failed. And I think you have also started quoting that, even though like, the AI is a big thing, companies start that, but still like most of those projects, maybe 70-80% is getting failed or is getting stalled. In your view, is the failure usually a technical bug or a lack of empathy for the end user workflow still causing these failures?
Absolutely lack of empathy for the end user thing, because like I said, the technology is so much state of the art today that there is not that anything it cannot solve at this point in time. You can make the technology work for 95-99% of the problems out there. We are only possibly restricted by our imagination, by our courage to take some of these problems ahead. So the technology, the raw material is there to solve the problems. What is needed is how we are going to fit the problem in, how are you going to be able to distribute our solutions across different enterprises, and be there for them when there are problems that occurs, tweak them, fine tune them, and then make that happen. I'll give you another example. So most of the time we build our conversational bot solution sitting with the call center. So we understand how these conversations are happening, and then try and replicate them through a bot journey. And like I said, for us it is not just a conversational bot, it is an end outcome of what the conversation is trying to do. Is it trying to collect, is it trying to get more loans, is it trying to make a claims process faster? Is it trying to sell a house? What is it trying to do, and what kind of integrations and systems that it should connect with, so that the conversation actually results into an outcome.
Mhm.
So, and hence the last mile of it, and hence we kind of say that we unabashedly, without any, with full pride and unabashedly sit at the last mile of a journey of AI. We do our foundation models, but that's not our focus. Our focus is how these problems can get solved with the state of the art technology that exists today.
Mhm. No, you are absolutely correct, and technology is the one way through which we can reach it to the last user and also solve that problem, because he is still in the queue where like most of those things are not able to reach. For example, like the lending which you said, right? He might be just a person who might just need only like a 50K or 1 lakh in which he can start, and if he's not able to reach out to these provider without like the technology, and if he's just following the traditional process, he might not even get that amount.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So tell me something more around the financial sector language model called UbiBERT, which you folks have built it, and specifically for the developers or the data engineers who are listening. As the LLMs become more commodities. When I say commodity, it means we will have like these LLMs from most of this company, which will be accessible to all. Where they should focus on their learning, is it more on the model architecture or on the data centric plumbing?
Great question. So UVBERT was built before the LLMs wave kind of took over, and our idea was to kind of look at a lot of financial knowledge that is available in the internet, specifically in the Indian context, and make a language model on top of it. Now, coming to it, the advice to people who are getting into the field, I think many are saying this. I'm also in the same thought process. Widen the career, take
Mhm.
broader scopes, don't go to extreme specialization. So at one point, to build a software you needed 10 different types of specializations. Today it can be done by very few handful of such specialization that needs to exist, and the difference between the specialization is kind of coming down. So a lot more jobs are going to be there for those people who can code, who can talk to a customer, who can explain what they have done, who can set a narrative for the product, who can, like we kept talking about in the conversation, have a lot of empathy to the end problem at hand, but who can also and hence solve this problem end to end. I think more and more jobs in the future and more value creation is going to come from people who understand what to solve and how to solve, and how to present it and how to communicate what they have solved in the same person. So the broader you go in your scope, you're not restricted saying I'm a product manager or I'm an engineering lead, or I can only do this. If you can broaden your scope, and if you can be that person who starts from client and end to a solution and go back to a client and end in an outcome, I think that's where that's where the maximum value creation is going to come in from. More and more we do breadth, as opposed to the depth we were doing earlier. I think that's where things are going to open up.
Yeah, you are right. And as the technology has become accessible, this is, the expectation also has increased. And I think it reminds me also of the olden days of technology, where maybe like, 20 years back, the people or like the general public were not aware about what an IT professionals do, right? Whether there is like a different data, there is a software, there's a hardware. They would ask, right, if they see an IT engineer, hey, can you repair my laptop, or can you repair my desktop? So he was expecting you, even though like you might be just building a software products, that he's expecting you to know each and everything around the IT ecosystem.
I don't know still whether even at the level of breadth will like our IT in the breadth. I don't know. That's something that is beyond me to speak about. But What I meant on breadth is start from a problem, end with an outcome. That if it can be one person, it'll be much more valuable than what it is today.
All right, Mathangi. So we covered, I think, lots of things in detail, but now I wanted to have some quick rapid fire questions, which you can answer in one or two line, but feel free if you do have a detailed answer also. So we are in 2026. What is the one technology in your domain you think is overhyped?
AI is overhyped and underutilized.
Okay, that's good. English versus pure dialect, which is harder for AI to master.
Any day, local dialect because of the dearth of information. We call it low resource language. Any day, low resource language is tougher to master.
Mhm. One book that shaped your leadership style.
I go through a lot of podcasts more than a book. I think a lot of these podcasts about meaning I follow Simon Sinek quite well, and some of his thought process, etc. What he preaches, I almost practice, and I've been in that kind of a leader all along, so kind of also gels well.
Mhm. And what is the most underrated sector for AI disruption in India right now?
So it just we are just at the tip of the iceberg in many many sectors. I think call centers, for example, are there out there, and many are talking about it. But talk about legal, talk about innovations that can do in healthcare, talk about the innovations that can do in agri. I think there is a lot and lot to be kind of added value there. A lot of outcomes and potential impacts that can get created in these fields.
And one last question in this segment is there are like lots of tools coming, right? Day to day, even if like we just open it, there are like a new startup and the new tools coming. What is your advice for the professional, whether they are just starting their journey or very expert into the work? How can they like avoid these? Uh, hey, there is like lots of thing happening, and I can't stay on top of everything.
Yeah, so you can't stay on top of everything. So that's a reality. So accept the truth that you cannot stop on top of everything, but that should not stop you from learning as much as you can.
Okay, so Matangi, we reached towards the end. Is there anything else you want to share it with our users?
Yeah, maybe AI, we keep talking about it in a lot of places as one that is going to take away jobs and one that is going to kind of create a dystopian world. I think that's not where we are. AI has just began. The
Mhm.
potential for the right innovation, the right transformation is immense. It's not going to disrupt, it's going to transform a lot of people, a lot of potential of opportunities, and everything is going to come up. It is going to transform lives, and it will, like I said, it will bring the delta between haves and the have nots much, much lesser. That's what we're looking for, a brave new world.
Yeah. No, you are absolutely correct, and I think this type of fear comes naturally because I think in this generation or the generation which is currently working, we might have seen the computer or the IT change because the same expectation were there, and I think 50 or 80 years back, specifically in India, when the electricity came and then the machine started working, those were also saying, "Hey, this will like cut the job problem for the people who are working with their like more doing the physical work."
Correct. So it will take the next leap of faith for humanity. We will be only be restricted by our own imagination. So if you can imagine, if you can dare to dream, it can be produced.
No, definitely. And thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your insightful information. around the overall AI. How is this impacting the India? What are some of the things which might not be visible to the outside world, but there is like lots of good work happening where we are using technology to make it accessible for the end user or to the last mile user who hasn't, or I would say like the technology hasn't changed their lifestyle in some or the other form of using, whether it is agriculture, whether it is finance, or whether it is healthcare.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kuldeep. It's been a great conversation. I think very, very thoughtful questions. I think we triggered a certain set of narrative from me, and I'm sure people who are hearing this will have their own debates and own thought process on this. Thank you so much.
All right, that's it for this episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. Until next time, keep learning and keep innovating. Thank you for watching.